Hey book huggers, this is Jen. Let's talk about A Darker Shade of Magic. A Darker Shade of Magic is a fantasy novel written by V.E. Schwab that was published this year and is 398 pages long. The story is about 4 parallel worlds that all have a city in them called London. They're all very different, they have different rulers, different names of the countries, but they all have a city called London in them, and there are 2 people, the main character whose name is Kell and a man named Holland, and they are the only 2 people left in all of the worlds who are travelers, who can use blood magic to go back and forth through all the different Londons. And their only job is to take correspondence, usually about once a month, from the rulers of one London to the rulers of another. And Kell has given all the Londons different colors. There's Grey London, which is our London, our world, but it's set during the Regency period when Mad King George was on the throne, and all the magic has been sort of leached out of it. Nobody really knows that there is still magic. It's just very gray. Red London, where Kell is from, it glorifies life, it glorifies magic. The Thames, which is not called the Thames, it's called something else, is a red color, and there's sort of a red haze on everything, and so that's Red London. White London is ruled by a set of twins called the Danes, and they are sadistic, horrible, power hungry. They want all the magic in the world, and the people in their kingdom are all very much the same. They're sort of desperate. They want as much magic as they can get, and it's a very dangerous, dangerous place. And Black London, no one can even get into anymore. They sealed off Black London and that world because they used up all the magic and it made them crazy, and they didn't want any of that stuff getting out into the other Londons, so they sealed them off, so nobody can get into Black London. And again, Kell and Holland are supposed to go among all these Londons and just deliver messages to the different rulers. But Kell has a hobby of sort of trading in illegal artifacts from the different worlds, because no artifact from one world is supposed to ever get into the other world. But Kell sort of has this thing on the side where he trades in those artifacts. And if the word ever got back to his king, who is actually also his adoptive father, he would be charged with treason and everything would go south. Well, something happens with this trade of his that could get him accused of treason. And so he ends up back in Grey London, and he is pickpocketed by a girl named Lila Bard, who is this wannabe pirate. She's a super tough girl who hates living in the London where she is. She knows that there has to be more to life and more out in the world, and she ends up helping Kell get back to Red London and try to solve what's going on. There you go, spoiler free. There's really a lot to love in this book. The characters I thought were really complex, really amazing, especially the character of Lila. I think it could have gone in a completely different direction, a very stereotypical, like, tough girl with a heart of gold sort of thing, but she was much more complex than that. She had a serious violent streak. One that was mostly developed to keep her alive in Regency London as a woman on her own, but she also kind of enjoys it, kind of enjoys the violence. And she's only one of the really well thought out and well drafted characters in this book. The Danes in White London are some of the most sadistic, like, horrible villains that I've read in a book in a really long time, but it was also a delight to read them. It was a little bit like Cersei and Jaime from the first Game of Thrones book, or Joffrey even. Like those kind of villains that you love to hate because they're just so awful, but there's also like this sarcastic streak in them, and anyway, it was fun to read them, which sounds terrible, actually. The pacing was really good. The magic was not magic I'd read before, and as we've talked about, I read a lot of magic stuff, so whenever I can read something that isn't like the same kind of magic, I really, really love it. So, amazing complex characters, really good pacing. The plot didn't disappoint. There were surprises around every corner. Yes, lots and lots and lots to love. I don't have a lot of negatives with A Darker Shade of Magic. The only negative that I wrote in my notes was that I had to take breaks quite a lot. I think it doesn't really end up counting as a negative because I had to take breaks because I didn't want to miss anything. Very often I will start a book and read the whole thing in one day, or in a couple of hours, and it makes me really happy because then I can read another book. I did not read this in one day. I did not read this in a couple of hours. I really did have to take some breaks so that I could come back fresh so that I wouldn't miss anything, which again is not really a negative. Verdict is definitely huggable. I really cared about the characters, I loved the story, I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, and I can't wait to read the sequel when it comes out, whenever that is. It will not be soon enough, actually. If you've read A Darker Shade of Magic and you have opinions, as I'm sure you do, let me know them down in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye! I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, it gets a hug, and